Hi everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about the SPSFC2 semi-finalists that are assigned to Team Dragons in Space. We are already at the semi-finalist round, so after that we only have the finalists and then we will have our winner of SPSFC2. So not that many books anymore, not that much time anymore either. For the quarterfinalists I did one video per book, like an actual review. This time I thought I'm doing it a little bit vlog style and talk with you like as I'm reading the books a little bit about it. We'll see how it goes. I've never done a vlog before. I've watched a lot because I actually enjoy this kind of casual feel to it, so we'll see how this is going to go. Feedback on how I can improve my vlogs is welcome in the comments. So starting off with just the 6 books that Team Dragon in Space is reading. That is one Exin Ex Machina by G.S. Jensen. Then we have The View from Infinity Beach by R.P.L. Johnson. The names are starting to get very similar as we move along here. The Clarity of Cold Steel by Kevin Wright. Then Bubbles in Space Tropical Punch by S.C. Jensen. Then we have A Titan Hoppers by Rob J. Hayes. And The Audacity by Carmen Loop. So those are the 6 books that Team Dragons in Space is reading. What I'm talking about during the vlog is only my opinion of each book, which doesn't reflect the team's opinion. The books also have been read by other teams before, so just in case you're not fully aware, what semi-finalist means or what has happened before is every team got 30 books assigned. They had to go through all these 30 books, had to rate them 10 to 20%, and then say yes or no if they want them to continue to the quarterfinalists. Team Dragon in Space picked 7 quarterfinalists total. We read through all of those end to end, cover to cover. I mean, there's an option to DNF, but essentially we read them cover to cover, and then we gave them scores. And 3 of those books moved into the semifinalists. Those have now been assigned to 2 other teams to read. Same with the books that we got now assigned to semifinalists. They come from 2 other teams, and basically all the 3 semifinals from every team are assigned to 2 other teams that are now reading them. By the time I'm filming this, I already read 1 book and I started a 2nd book. So what I thought I'll start off with is just talking a little bit about the book that I already put aside. And I tell you in a minute what I mean with that in particular. And the book that I started with already. So the first book that I started reading is The View from Infinity Beach by R.P.L. Johnson, which is kind of more a YA space opera type book. This book is about a young man, I think his name is Cade. Sorry, it has been 2 days and I'm already forgetting the names. I'm sorry. It's about a young man who is flying to a space station that is called Excalibur Station together with his mom because his mom got a job there. She's super excited. She's a biologist. They traveled all the way from Earth to that station, and he is kind of apprehensive. He doesn't really want to be there. He wants to go back to Earth as soon as he can because everything is familiar on Earth. He knows how the rules work and everything. And then it basically starts with them arriving at station. And he is being robbed, essentially. So they have something that is called glyphs, which are little bracelets that are basically their IDs. So it helps, like it would open rooms and it has information about him. And I don't know, it was not too detailed, the explanation, but it was clear that this is an important thing for them. And he basically gets conned by a guy the same age, and it's taken away from him. And that guy disappears in the masses. And then it jumps forward a couple of days later. He's like, okay, I have to get this back. So I'm now walking through the station and I'm trying to find him and get my glyph back. And that was the point where I started to struggle with the book. So I'm in the first 20% here, so I'm not spoiling a whole lot. But that's where I started struggling with the book because it kind of felt like a weird plot movement where if something gets stolen that is so important that I can't even get into my room without it, I can't even buy whatever food without it, then why am I so cool about it? Why am I not running after this person? Why am I not involving the whatever police they have on the station to get that back? Instead, we're jumping a couple of days forward. He already has a new glyph that, has now all of his information. Why do I now care about the other person that stole that? Yet he is going out there into the station where 10,000 people are, and of course he finds him, just to then tell him, it's fine, you can keep it. So I understand that the author needed some sort of plot device just to include Kate into this group of teenagers to then get to the point of the story. And that's just, I don't know, that bugged me. I thought it was kind of a clunky beginning, and it was not convincing for me. It felt very convenient and, yeah, was not a great start to the story. That was one thing. Then the other thing was, this book needs an editor. While they're just minor grammar issues, the thing that is really obvious is how often Excalibur is mentioned. So the station they're on is called Excalibur Station, and it's very obvious because he talks about the Excalibur logo being on this guy's pants, or on, you see the Excalibur logo on this wall, and they are now going back to Excalibur Base, or they're flying away from Excalibur Base. He always says Excalibur, and you could do it much easier by just getting rid of the name. We now know there's just this one base out there. We know it's called Excalibur. And I actually looked up how often the word Excalibur logo in particular is mentioned. It's 26 times. 26 times throughout the book, he says there's the Excalibur logo on something. The word Excalibur is used way more often to describe the station. And that's, for a book that I want to move to the finals, I don't know if this should happen, you know? And then things that just didn't work for me personally. It's very tropey. It's it's a typical YA, you know, it's a young coming of age where the Cade is kind of, he doesn't want to be there. He's like reluctant, and, you know, everything's nah, and he doesn't want to have friends. But then he meets the typical bullying other group. In this case, it's a specific sport that they are doing, and that team that is really good at it, they are bullying him. And then the main guy in this bullying sport group has I quote, girlfriend that is gorgeous in an effortless way. So it's also very stereotypical on how the young woman is represented. And whereas the boy, like one of the other boys, like he has acne and he is not, you know, he's ugly, blah, blah, blah. But the girl is gorgeous. That was just the point. After 20%, I decided to DNF this book. Personal enjoyment aside, right? I'm here to judge this book as objectively as I can. Even with me not liking it, the fact that it has some just plot issues, the fact that there are editing issues in there, already reduces the rating for me. Personal enjoyment is part of my rating for these books, but it is one small one. Like, it wouldn't influence it as much as, like, writing, plot consistency, character development, originality. So yeah, that's where I am with the book at the moment. Generally, I like the setting with you are at the base and something is off. It's very obvious early on that something is off on this station, and the teenager group essentially is there to figure out what is off. So that's the whole premise of the story, and I like the idea, and I think for YA sci-fi, it's a really good idea because it's a little bit of mystery, it's a little bit of adventure and entertainment and whatnot. So that was the first one. And then I started The Audacity by Carmen Loop, which has a very quirky cover. What I saw immediately is that it is kind of for fans of, what is the TV show called? Something with Lucy. Long Live Lucy. I don't know. I don't know this TV show. I've never watched it. So I already said, like, oops, hopefully I'm going to vibe with this one. I have to say it's not, at least for me, not very obvious besides the alien watching that TV show and enjoying this TV show. So I'm 40% into this book at this point, and I don't know, possible references that I'm just not seeing because I don't know the TV show. What I am seeing, though, it is definitely inspired by Hitchhiker's Guide Through the Galaxy, and it has a lot of, like, the narrative style is very much like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, to a point where I'm wondering if it is inspired by or copied. So I'm a bit careful with that one. So it is meant to be a more humorous book, and similar to Shakedowners by Justin Woolley, it's unfortunately not a humor that vibes with me, but I can see that a lot of people would like it. It's a type of humor that I know a lot of people enjoy. So far, the book in itself is written very well. The characters are interesting. You have like two storylines that have two characters each at the main point, and it's kind of moving along really nicely. So I really enjoy the pace. I really enjoy what is happening. It is not like, there's actually not a lot of stuff happening so far. 40% in, it feels more Like, we're getting to know the characters, we're getting to know the universe, because it's a really big universe in space. While the main character is from Earth, like, we're on various planets, a lot of made up names for things, like even like fuck is made there's a word for that is made up, and the author is throwing these words around, and you can kind of figure out what the author's talking about. But similar to Hitchhiker's Guide of the Galaxy, where just words come up and you're like, okay, it's an alien thing. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it for this part. I'm going to check in with you as I'm further along on the Audacity book, and I can tell you a little bit more about the thoughts of the book once I'm finished with that. So we'll see how that works audio-wise. I'm recording now with my phone instead of my camera and my fancy microphone that I usually use. I hope this is not super shaky. You'll see. So I'll try to keep this rather short. And I hope the audio is not too different from the other audio. But anyway, it's Sunday afternoon, and I finished the Audacity by Carmen Loop. I'm done now. It's a really quick book, 200 some odd pages. So it's a really quick read. It's incredibly entertaining. It's really fast paced, and I read it in one swoop basically. I don't think I talked about what the premise of the book is. It's about May, who gets abducted by aliens. Like, she works in a restaurant, and then all of a sudden a bunch of AMC gremlins, I think it's a car thing, I have no idea, I've never heard of this before, I'm not a car person, I'm not an American car person, but I think they're all cars. They all of a sudden appeared everywhere on Earth, and people disappear. And May is one of those people that disappears and gets abducted by aliens, and then things happen. I don't want to tell too much because 260 pages, you can spoil something really quickly. But one thing that I want to mention is she then meets an alien whose name is Exin, who loves the show I Love Lucy. That's the TV show. And loves to watch that, and has a black hole in his basement. It's quirky. The whole premise of the book is the humor. And again, similar to another book that I've reviewed before, if the humor doesn't fit you, if this is just not your type of humor, this book will be lost on you, I think. I can see the nostalgia, like the 70s nostalgia in there. And it also reminds me a lot of Hitchhiker's Guide Through the Galaxy. So the way, the writing style, the narration style is very much inspired by, I'm still not sure if it's very inspired by or just a little inspired by Hitchhiker's Guide Through the Galaxy. The writing in general was good. The world building was kind of non-existent, to be honest, because you just get thrown in there. Random words are just thrown at you with not much explanation. Some of those you can understand based off of the context, but there's no explanation on the made-up words and the made-up language the author came up with. Not a bad book. Unfortunately, again, not my type of humor. I'm so sorry. But more objectively speaking, it's well written. It's decently plotted out. There are some things where I'm not 100% sure if I read things wrong or if they are not quite accurate. Like, there's a little bit of a time jump situation, and either I read the age wrong or something was written wrong. Something didn't add up there. But besides that, it's well done. Like, there's nothing that I can really say in regards to, I don't know, like, the writing is, it fits all together. That's what I'm trying to say. So the writing fits the style of the book. The characters fit the style of the book very much. And it's not meant to be like critically looked at. It's meant to be entertaining, and that's what it is. So that was the Audacity. And then I jumped right into the next book, which is Bubbles in Space by S.C. Jensen. Oh, by the way, both the Audacity and Bubbles in Space are book 1 in a series. I don't think The View from Infinity Beach, I think that is a standalone. Here I'm just at 5%, so I just finished chapter 1. I don't know much about it yet. I just know this seems to be more like a mystery thriller with the main character Bubbles being a cyborg. She has like a cyborg arm. And the only thing I know that this is meant to be written in the style of like noir mystery, like 40s, 50s, 60s noir mystery. Also not very long. I think it's also 200 some odd pages. So I don't think this will take me a whole lot of time. So I will check in with you at a later point again. Hi everyone, I'm finally checking in again. It's Wednesday now. I actually wanted to be done with Bubbles in Space yesterday, because, you know, it's now March. I wanted to finish that book in February. That unfortunately didn't happen. I'm at about 77%. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying Bubbles in Space. It's quirky. It's the story itself, the plot is really interesting. I have to read it like ongoing because the lingo or the ambiance, however you want to call it, is something I'm not used to. So it always takes me a little bit to get into the way the story is told or the writing style. And but once I'm in there, I have a hard time actually stopping the book. So with just like a bit more than 20% left, I think I can get it done tonight. I guess I talk to you once I'm done with it. I finished Bubbles in Space. To summarize, because I don't think I've talked about that before, Bubbles in Space is pulp noir, is what they call it, inspired science fiction, cyberpunk science fiction, with Bubbles, who is the main character. She's it's not a cyborg, but she has like a prosthetic arm that has certain abilities. She's a PI, she was a police officer of some sort, but then somehow she got kicked out of the police because something happened with the case. And anyway, and she gets pulled into a case where she kind of is set up for murder and tries to figure out why and what's happening. She ends up on a spaceship, like she won. You don't really learn in the book why she won that particular trip, if it was a setup or if she actually won something. But she won a trip in a luxury cruise liner, space cruise liner. And the main part of the story actually happens in that cruise liner. It is her figuring out what happened and how she got set up and how she keeps getting into those weird situations. She has some sort of AI animal companion in the form of a little pig, which I thought was kind of cute. Like as a trigger warning, and usually I don't do trigger warnings, but that is actually a trigger for me. She was an addict, alcohol, and is now recovering. And I actually read at the end of the book in the like notes from the author section that is a personal experience from the author that they are trying to write through, basically, which I appreciate. But I don't like reading books that deal with the topic of alcoholism. Different story, personal things. That's kind of what the book is about. And the author is, and that's what they keep saying all the time, are very inspired by pulp noir. I just love saying that. Pulp noir, 1980s cyberpunk science fiction. Words of the author, not mine. But it also reminds me of those pulp or of those noir type mystery novels. You know, what's the publisher called? Hard Case something rather. That's what it reminds me of. The book cover is actually one that didn't like it. I'm not a fan of that type of design, but it fits that kind of feel of the book. And I have to say the author did a very good job in making sure that the entire book fits into that theme and that the whole vibe is very similar. So in that regard, definitely really well done. I had some issues with some of the words. There's a glossary at the end. I didn't, because I read it on my ebook, and I hate on ebook, I hate this going back and forth. I find it clunky, so that's why I didn't use the glossary, which is why I had some issues with some of the words every now and then, but generally you understand the meaning as part of the reading experience. But it took me always a little bit to get into the chapters, but once I was in it and once I got used to the narration style, the reading experience rather was really fine. And I really enjoyed the book. Overall, I think it was plotted out very well. I struggled with the ending. The ending felt a little bit cobbled together and just some stuff made up that I didn't saw as part of the story as the mystery unraveled. So some of the things were just like, okay, are you just saying this right now, or is this really how this worked? From a writing perspective, there were some editing issues in there, like the wrong words used. They are pronounced the same way but spelled wrong, or just some typos, those type of things. There's some repetition with the description, but none of this really major. So overall, the writing is actually really well done and fits the theme. What I didn't like and I don't know why this came up at the end. One of the characters that helps finishing out the case is being described as his meaty hands and his wide mouth, and he wouldn't even fit through the door, and he's taking up the entire space, so he's fat, is what the author is saying. But it's one chapter. We met that character before, and I don't remember him being described this way, but this one chapter at the end, he's being described as fat over and over and over again. And that rubbed me the wrong way. And the other thing that rubbed me the wrong way, and again, those are personal things at the end of the day. Those are just things that I don't like in books. The other thing, something that is typical for pulp noir mysteries at least, is why is sex always such a big thing? So for one, the men are all ugly, but the women are thin, pretty, and with big boobs. Whatever. And then I don't know why everything has to be sexualized. And I just don't like the stuff. So, which is the reason why I usually don't read that type of book. But those things aside, I mean, I read those books for space fic, so there is some sort of objective judging has to be part of that. So from an objective, is the book a good book? I think from all of the 3 books that I've read, this one definitely is my favorite so far. Is it a favorite in general? No, not for me personally. That's where we are with those 3 books. One thing that I actually wanted to say is for both the Audacity and Bubbles in Space, what I love is that it's different. So from a uniqueness factor, that it is not your standard space opera type thing, both come with some unique elements, either through the narration style or through what it is inspired by, that I really appreciate that. So you don't always read same old, as part of the story. And both books pulled through with that theme really well. And that is also something that I appreciate. Consistency is something that is key for me in a story. Oh, I'm getting tired. So, and it's just 7:30, but I need to pick the next book. I'm not sure yet. I definitely decided that I'm just going to read the next 3 and then I'm good, and then I can mood read again. I have left Titan Hoppers by Rob J. Hayes, which I think this is going to be the last book that I'm going to read out of the 3 remaining. And then we have The Clarity of Cold Steel and Exin Ex Machina. And I think I will start with Clarity of Cold Steel, and then I will check in at a later point. Terrible lighting. It's late at night. I'm sitting in bed. Well, it's not late at night. It's actually just 7 p.m. But I got up early, so I'm tired. I wanted to check in on The Clarity of Steel by Kevin Wright. I'm going to DNF it. I don't know what's going on with the semi-finalists this time. Clarity of Cold Steel is also a detective story. Also inspired by these noir pulp mystery novels, at least it feels like. Different setting though, which is what I appreciate about it. But, sorry, my brain is not working 100%. So let's see, I put some notes together. I'm only 12% in, and I'm confused. I don't understand the characters. I don't understand the motivation of the characters. It's not consistent. I don't like the main character. He's a pretentious, and I know it's on purpose like that, but I can't. And I can't read the narrative voice. And I know this is a personal thing, which I should get aside, but I just can't read the book. Like, I don't understand half of it because the way the story is told. Like, words I left out, and I don't know, is this an editing issue or is this on purpose? It's really hard to read. And then there are things like, there's repetition, like he really butchered his thesaurus and synonyms are his friends. But then at the same time he doesn't. Like, there was, within 2 pages, he used the word caterpillar to describe a mustache. He uses a lot of, I'm saying something, oh, and by that I mean the other thing. So, like, what he means to say is blah, blah, blah. Or by XYZ, I mean this other thing. All the time. All the men are ugly. And all the women are gorgeous. I'm sorry, I can't with that stuff anymore. Seriously, have normal people in your book or don't describe them. I'm fine with that. Yeah, and then just things that feel inconsistent, like when he first met the mafia boss at the very beginning, he was kind of sweating and nervous, but later he was like a mafia boss is supposed to be. Same with there's a female mafia boss, I don't know what she really is, but she's leading something, some criminal syndicate. She too was nervously biting at the end of her pen. First of all, for a person like this, it doesn't make any sense to do that, but she did. And then she's cocky, and the conversations are just weird. The dialogues that they have are just weird. So clearly not a book for me. This one was a lot of I just can't read it, and if reading is subjective, I'm sorry about that. Like, you can tell me what you want, you can try to be as objective as you want, but if there's a point where you just can't read the book anymore because of reasons, there's no point in continuing it, because your objective rating is going to be blemished by that. So this book, I keep forgetting what the name of the book is. The Clarity of Cold Steel is not my thing, but there are also objectively issues with that when it comes to, I think in some areas words are missing on purpose, but in some areas words are actually missing, and it's an editing issue. There are inconsistencies in the plot. Honestly, I think we need to get over the fact that women always have to be super sexy in sci-fi books. I am not voting for something that supports this blatantly. So, okay, my rant, I'm sorry. I'm tired. I have had to deal with so much dumb things today that I'm just done right now. I have 2 more books left that I actually want to read and finish in March, so that I have April off of sci-fi, and hopefully that month off will give me some, energy back, some excitement back, because at the moment, I'm very honest, I'm a little bit but there are 2 more books to come. I'm excited about both of them. They look promising, although right this second I will tackle Dead House Gates by Stephen Erickson. This is the German version, just in case you're like, this doesn't say Dead House Gates, because I just need something else right now. All right, over and out. See you later. Puppy's trying to get comfy. Me too. There she is. Hello. Exin Ex Machina. I'm about halfway through. Half time. And this is an interesting book in various ways. And I'm not interesting good, not interesting bad, just interesting. Unique. It's definitely unique. Okay, so to start off, it took me a little bit to figure out what it is about. I'm still not 100% sure I figured out what is going on in Exin Ex Machina. It started with Nika waking up in a side street. It was raining. She didn't remember anything. She didn't know why she was there. She barely remembered her name. And that was kind of the prologue. And then we're jumping a couple years ahead. She's kind of leading a rebellion. That's kind of it. I'm not sure how much more of it is spoiler. What's interesting is this is actually a book 11 in a series, but the author says it's a good book to start with a series. So I'm not sure if some of the me not understanding what's going on is because it is actually not a good starting point, or because this is just the way her books are written and you just, get thrown into the deep end and you have to figure things out. I haven't seen a glossary in the ebook, so again, a lot of unknowns. The overall flair reminds me a lot of Star Wars, Mandalorian, like those type of space operas, way far in the future. We're across planets, across galaxies, and there are a lot of different species and whatnot. Which is why I actually find it interesting that the word alien is being used in this book relatively often. For me, alien means like not of this world. And for a book or a universe that is that vast, that is where aliens are so common, because you're traveling across planets, other species, you interact with them, it's easy to travel from one planet to another, the word alien feels kind of out of place. And I'm not sure if franchises like Star Wars use the word alien. I don't think so. I would be interested in your comments. Am I the only one? I'm weird thinking this? If you have a sci-fi that is set so far in the future, where you easily travel between planets and you have people of other species, or would you use the word alien there? I don't know. Besides that, the writing is okay. It's very techy. The book itself is more on the sci-fi side, and I feel it's also more on the plot side. Character development is not really great. They all kind of blur together. I have a hard time keeping certain characters apart. But again, that could be a me problem. I'm not 100% sure. She has her own descriptions for certain things, but again, without a glossary, I'm having trouble. Some things you understand out of the context what they mean. Some things I just have no idea what they mean. And again, I'm not sure if this is because it's book 11 in a series or this is just how she writes her books. So I have an issue with some of the plot things, like the Nika that is leading the rebellion, I think. I'm not sure how long she has been doing it, but it feels like 2 years, maybe 5 years, but she's already the leader of this organization. And all this leadership thing, there's a lot of, I don't know if the author is kind of a consultant for leaders on how to be a good leader, because there are a lot of leadership tips in there that are really annoying to read about, I have to say. And then the author tries to be diverse, but she throws in weird things in places where they don't belong. So it doesn't feel natural. As an example, there's a character that is aromantic and unigendered, and she introduces that character as, this is the name of the person, he was born there, he is aromantic, and he's now helping me with the weapons. I was like, so what does this have to do with the story? Nothing. It has nothing to do with it. So it feels kind of like it's thrown in for the sake of throwing in diversity. And that's where I'm at. Oh man, people, this round is rough. I'm fully aware of that, and I don't know what's going on with me. Maybe I'm just in a funky reading mood altogether. I'll shut up now. I will now spend some time actually reading because I've done not enough of that this week. And I will check in with you when I'm done with Exin Ex Machina. Okay, it's early in the morning. I'm trying to talk a bit quieter because Aspid is still sleeping. I don't want to wake him up. But I DNF'd Exin Ex Machina yesterday. I'm done. I don't know. This book, I don't even know what to say right now. So it is about a planet where you have, I'm not sure if there's synthetic bodies or what, but there is a personality living in that body. They can live thousands of years, and if the body for whatever reason dies or, breaks apart, you can take that personality and put it into another body. You can upgrade your personality and add personality traits, or enhance your personality traits and that kind of stuff. You can upgrade your body physically by attaching new arms, whatever. And the society they are living in has guides who are essentially your government. It's three or four individuals that set everything up back then and, want to have a just system. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of background story on that. And then there is justice, which is your police. And then you have that rebel organization where our main character is part of. That setting actually sounds interesting, which is probably why I read 70% of the book and then gave up. I actually find it interesting that you have some sort of AI, or I'm not sure what it is, living in synthetic bodies, and they built a society. Very interesting concept. Not great executed. So the issue that accompanied me through the entire book was definitely character. There's no character development. They're all incredibly flat. There are a lot of things that happen for no reason. Like, they are doing things that don't seem to fit that character or how you would expect that character to behave. And at one point, the whole plot just is weird, and so many things don't make sense. Let's start. The book starts with a lot of made-up technical words that you have no idea if you're supposed to know them or not, because again, it's a book 11 in a series, so I still don't know if I was supposed to know these descriptions or not. Anyway, some you are able to figure out as you go along, some are just thrown in there for fun. Then you have weird coding language thrown in every now and then, like when they look at something, you have like a, something that looks like coding language, but it's just a bunch of Greek letters garbled together and not even well done. In some cases, it's the same 3 Greek letters over half a page. I was like, no, this is not how coding language works. I'm sorry. The first half was rather plot driven and focused on figuring out who can you trust, that kind of stuff. And then shortly after the halfway point, it changes into half porn, but that badly done. Like he was suckling each nipple. Ugh, gross. And then it was kind of descriptive, but then it fades into black and the descriptions were bad. So it felt like she couldn't decide if she wanted it to be descriptive, the adult scene, or if she wanted it to fade to black, and then decided, oh, I'm just fading it to black because I don't really know how to write it. And then all of a sudden that love story takes over. And the love story doesn't make any sense. So the main character is the leader of a rebel organization. I'll get to that in a second too, by the way. It's the leader of a rebel organization. She meets while she's infiltrating a company that does everything that she is against, right? Like that's the enemy essentially, next to the government, but this company works with the government, whatever. There's not really a reason why this particular company is bad, but it's bad in her eyes. She sees the CEO, talks with him for 2 minutes. There's something that happens that she realizes, which is why she wants to meet with him again. And when she meets with him again, she completely falls over him and fucks him within a day. And then she falls in love with him. And then she takes him the next day, she takes him to the rebel house and basically shows him the enemy. The CEO of an enemy company shows him the rebel lair. I was like, why would you? I mean, if you are such a smart person and you're leading a rebel organization that has millions of whatever currency they have, right? That is rich, that has money to buy whatever they need to house all of these people, and you're showing that to the CEO that you don't even know if you can trust just because you think you have some history. I don't know. For everything else, she's way too paranoid for doing that thing. As an example, like your personality, you can create a backup of that. She could not just create a backup of that. She has the data, the backup laying in multiple different vaults on multiple different planets, and they all in the rebel organization have to back up their data all the frickin' time. For someone who's so paranoid, to then them trust the enemy within a day because allegedly they have history. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. So that was the big thing. And then all the characters are erratic. The CEO, who is a very settled, I mean, he is the CEO of a freaking ginormous enterprise, right? He's rich. He worked hard to get there. He decides out of nowhere to buy drugs and take his manufacturing unit apart, like completely blow it apart. And it's like, why? Out of nowhere. If she would have written a scene where he goes up to the drug dealer and he's having doubts, and you hear his inner monologue of, should I buy drugs, should I not, I'm done, I'm desperate, something, it would have helped. But just next chapter, and all of a sudden his security guard is calling someone in saying, hey, you need to get him off of these drugs, something is off. I was like, what? That, no. And there's so many of these. So, and now to the main character. This race lives thousands of years. So there were side anecdotes of, oh yeah, we've met 3,900 years ago. I don't know, something weird like that. She woke up in that alley completely memory wiped 5 years ago. And in those 5 years, knowing nothing, barely her name, in those 5 years, she learned everything there is to learn about this world, figured out that they are all corrupt and that it needs a rebel organization, and then joins that rebel organization. They existed before, and becomes their leader in 5 years and organize it. And like, that was also a thing in the book. She is the reason that this rebel organization is so organized and has all this money and is finally doing things in 5 years, not even in the real world, and especially not in a world where characters live thousands of years. That timeline doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so this book is a mess, and at 71%, I gave up. I was done. None of the characters make sense. The plot doesn't make sense. And I don't even care anymore. And again, I think the premise is amazing. Like this concept of alien planet. By the way, I'm still confused about the word of the usage of the word alien in this book, because it is so far in the future. The concept of alien shouldn't exist in a world where people travel from planet to planet and interact with all of these species. Anyway, I think the premise is amazing. It really needs an editor. It needs to be cleaned up badly, and then it might be something that is readable and enjoyable. But the way it is right now, I don't know what's going on. It's all over the place, which leaves me with the last book that I have to read for the semi-finalists. That's Rob J. Hayes' Titan Hoppers. I read the first chapter last night, which completely gave me Pacific Rim vibes. I love the movies. I don't know if I want to read a book that is like Pacific Rim, but yeah, you get kind of thrown in chapter 1. You know nothing. Like a bunch of words are thrown at you. I don't know if you're supposed to know any of these. We'll figure it out. I'm just 1 chapter in, so deep breath. We'll figure it out. I will read some more, and then we'll see if the last book changes anything for the semi-finalists. It's a bit late in the day. I'm not as chaotic anymore, but this is going to be the end of my SpaceFig vlog, SpaceFig review vlog. I don't know what I'm going to call it, because I am also going to DNF Titan Hoppers by Rob J. Hayes. This is going to be a not my style DNF though, which means it has no impact on the points. It's just not my style. It's a progression sci fantasy, and I'm just not into the progression style. I like playing computer games. I don't like reading computer games. I find that weird. I read 10%, something like that, the first few chapters. The story seems decent as far as I can tell. There's definitely some character depth to it, and you learn about the emotions of the character. The writing is good. So I'm stopping 1 because, again, progression fantasy, progression sci-fi, whatever. The progression subgenre in general is not my thing. I find those generally and the second reason is I really want to read a Rob J. Hayes book because he gets so much praise. So I don't want to read a book that I might end up not liking and then risking that I never pick up another book by him. So I much rather stop here and then take a look at his other books and pick one that is not in the progression style, that is maybe a little bit different, maybe a little bit more of something that I like. So, having that said, I've read all 6 books. I don't have a favorite, to be honest, because I didn't like any of them, really. I think way too many of them had actual issues in the sense of plot, character building, editing issues, just things that didn't make sense. And I don't think books like that, while, they might have readers that enjoy them, again, keep in mind this is only my opinion, not my team's opinion, not everyone's opinion, only mine. So while I do believe that every book has a reader that will enjoy it, I don't think these should be put forward in a finalist section because they are either too niche or too problematic or just not done well enough that they're deserving of a finalist spot, if that makes any sense. Go check out the SpaceFig page. Go check out all the other teams. Every book is now judged by 2 teams. So all the 6 books that I've talked about here are judged by 2 other teams as well. So 3 of them by 1 other team and the other 3 by yet another team. Because all the semi-finalists that moved over were sent to 2 teams. And then in my team, I have 7 other people that are about to read them. So definitely check out what other people are saying about these books. I hope you enjoyed this format. As I said, I've never done a vlog before. I kind of like the producing of it, so I might do some of these a little bit because they're a little bit subtle. I can, just jump in quickly versus setting up everything and making sure the lighting works and this works and that works. So this is a bit easier for me. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts. And then let me know what you think. Did I judge too harshly? Should I have been more lenient? Alrighty, folks. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Oh, by the way, don't forget to subscribe and all that stuff. I always forget saying that. I don't know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. I really much appreciate you. And I'll see you soon with another video. Bye.